This is not that.
Welcome to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
Me, Rob. Let's break down some of this giant news we got going on. And the Hard Knocks breakdown.
So much news, guys. We have two new Giants. We have one gone Giant. We have a new injury. We have an ex-Giant to talk about. We have a Giant that might be going bye-bye soon, at least in the starting lineup. And we have all the Hard Knocks. All the Hard Knocks. That was the finale. That was the finale. And spoiler, the finale kind of sucked, to be honest. It was the worst episode of all of them.
Yeah, but it's also what we were expecting.
No, I still wanted a Darren Waller moment. I wanted all these kind of things. I wanted to see Russell Wilson come into the Giants facilities. I wanted to see all this kind of stuff. I wanted to see the Wink Martindale fight. They didn't show any of that stuff. I was hoping.
Yeah.
I knew the Wink Martindale thing was over and done with. The Russell Wilson thing was over and done with. I was hoping for something with Darren Waller.
Yeah, we knew that was happening.
We'll probably break down the biggest disappointments and surprises at some point there for Hard Knocks now that the show's over here. So let's get into
next Wednesday, maybe.
Or tomorrow. Who knows? Let's get into the new guys here, because we got some new signings here. We got some new Giants. One just came down the last couple hours here, so hot off the presses here. But the first one came down yesterday, and this is a guy we just talked about there last week because he came in for a visit, and that's Greg Roten. Was officially signed yesterday by the New York Football Giants. There, 1-year deal, maxes out at $3 million, and this is a really good signing, guys. This is a really, really good signing. You got a guy who
phenomenal,
is coming off of his best year he's ever had. Point blank, coming off his best year ever had. Guys, he had a PFF. I know PFF's not all. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, but it's hard to give you a stat for offensive line. You know what I mean? It's hard to go, here's the stat that tells you how good this guard is. But PFF at least gives you a play grade, so it gives you an idea and people understand the notion of what it means here. So PFF grade last year, 75.3, by far the best of his career. To give you guys a reference, Andrew Thomas last year, 76.1. No, he's not Andrew Thomas. I'm not saying that. I'm not expecting that. I'm not even necessarily expecting a 75.3 again from him. Let's be honest. That's a career potentially. But you're putting this guy back in with the same offensive line coach he had last year. You're putting him potentially right next to the same right tackle he played next to last year. Like, you're putting him in the best possible scenario to succeed. Absolutely the best. And I really wish that we could go ahead and, I should have grabbed it ahead of time. We even joked around about it. But the getting the first talk we did about Bricillo when we first signed him, because we talked about the fact that we were going to sign some people potentially from the Raiders offensive line, and
called it out.
We had three people that we had suggested for that. We said Jermaine Eluemunor right off the bat would be one of them. We said that Greg Van Roten would be a perfect fit as well. We also had Hronis Grasu, the backup center, we said as well, because for those who don't follow the celebrity pages, he just married this past year here one of the stars of the New York Liberty, Sabrina Ionescu, I believe is how you pronounce her name. I apologize if I mispronounced that. I am definitely not a basketball person, really. Anyway,
was that the Waller wedding?
No, that was not the Waller wedding. No, Waller.
Did they meet at the Waller wedding?
Oh no, they would not meet at the Waller wedding. No, but I guess I just thought because of the fact that he's now married to somebody who plays in the area that he'd also play in the area as well. But I think he's still unsigned, so who knows? Maybe he'll come by as well. But he was a backup center, so wasn't a big deal. Wasn't a signing I was necessarily rooting for. It's just I thought that it would match up for that reason. But you got 2 out of 3 that we said, and like Meatloaf said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So this is a good signing, guys. Quietly a very good signing. This is a guy who, I'll tell you point blank, allowed some sacks last year. Allowed 5 sacks. That's not a good stat. But his play overall was very solid. It's just when he messed up big. That's basically what it boils down to. Like if you're gonna make a mistake,
improvement off of last year of what we've had. Let's be honest.
Listen, you could put a team of horses in front of Daniel Jones, and they'd probably do better jobs than the offensive line did.
Probably.
Frank.
A sack of potatoes.
He'd also be a very mobile quarterback with a lot of horsepower.
I see what you did there.
Bazinga. Get some Clydesdales in there. Get some Budweiser during the game.
Just not Bud Light.
But yeah, I mean, guys, this is potentially a starting lineman that we just added on. We'll have to see what happened. I'm cautiously optimistic because he had his best season last year. Before that, he was kind of a journeyman, kind of a backup that did some spot starts. That wasn't the typical for his career last year. But I think we put him in the best spot to replicate that between the coaching, having Eluemunor next to him again. I think it's going to be a good signing for us overall. So nothing bad to say about it whatsoever, which y'all know, very rare for me to say anything bad.
I know, this is amazing.
I know.
We were talking about this offline, and you're like, I like this. So I was like,
optimism?
I was driving. Yeah. It's like, what?
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 We got another guy, though, signed. We got a second signing here. We're just adding players left and right, which is, to be very frank, I know it's positive a minute ago. That's not very good because that means they're not happy with the roster still. Let's be honest.
Sure.
But the Giants signed earlier today ex-Eagle cornerback Mario Goodrich. Now, this is not the kind of signing that it was to get Greg Van Roten. This is a depth piece kind of thing. See what you got kind of move. Potentially just a camp body even. But I'll say this, between this last week now we've signed 2 corners, guys. We signed Border, and now we signed Goodrich. Writing's on the wall, guys. What does that tell you the Giants are not very happy with?
A corner spot.
Corner spots, exactly. And I think the big spot they're having issues with, to be very frank, is slot, which is where Mario's got some experience at there. Drew Phillips was the guy that a lot of people suggested was going to be the starting slot corner, including the Giants themselves, even if you listen to what they said in Hard Knocks this week, which we'll get to later on. But by all accounts, and granted, it's still early on, things can change. By all accounts, though, Nick McLeod's been working the slot. And that's definitely not the plan coming to fruition at that point there. Nick McLeod, I thought, would be a guy who might take the outside spot from Cordell Flott. But I didn't even think of him as a slot receiver. It's just not what he's usually played at that point there. So, he's kind of there by default. So, we'll see what happens then. But I mean, he's again former Eagle, signed as an undrafted rookie free agent there. Had played the last 2 seasons with the Eagles, coming out of Clemson there, and he's had only 4 games overall, 1 start, so hasn't played too much. In fact, all of his playing time came in the past season. And if there's one thing you need to remember about the Eagles secondary last year, if you go walk your dog, you'll get a good reminder of what they look like. Make sure to clean it up afterwards. Like that was a really bad secondary last year, guys. And there's a reason why, like, all their top picks in the draft this year were secondary. It was horrendous. So it's going to be interesting to see if he does provide anything or if he is just a camp body for a few weeks, whatever the case is. Like I said, I don't think this is a major signing. I think this is something you kind of keep an eye, see what happens. If you get something out of him, great. If you get nothing out of him, I didn't hear anything money-wise, but I'm sure this is a nothing guaranteed, nothing major kind of deal. Why would you give that in this case?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So, no risk, just possible reward. Can't hurt it, can't hate it. So,
Hope.
Speaking of the Eagles, we got to talk about.
We're gonna get a little saucy and spicy here.
We're gonna talk about the newest Eagle guys, and I want to hear you all that are watching right now in the comments section to share your thoughts on it. Whether you're watching live, whether you're watching later on, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, whatever. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Saquon Barkley got trashed for leaving the Giants and going to the Eagles. Where's the hate for the newest Eagle? Nick Gates, who went from the Giants to the Commanders last year, and the Giants gave him an offer. He chose to go to the Commanders. And now this year he goes to the Eagles. He's now worked for 2 of our division rivals. And guys, I'll be very clear. We're not just saying hate on Nick Gates. What we're pointing out is the hypocrisy of the whole thing, which is probably the biggest Scrabble word you'll ever hear in the show.
Most likely. But the thing is, too, like, just to play devil's advocate of why Barkley gets the hate is because, he was the guy that we leaned on. And let's be frank, though. Like, coming back, not playing devil's advocate, we didn't match. We didn't do what we did for Gates as we did for Barkley. So, like, Barkley, quote unquote, like we've talked about, like, he wants to stay a Giant. We offered Gates the same amount that, for the Commanders, right? Am I wrong?
No. The Commanders offered him a lot more. Yeah, Commanders offered him a ridiculous contract that at the time, everybody and their mother, including Giants people, were like, this is ridiculous. Why would you ever give this guy kind of money? And they had him for a year and then cut him, so obviously they knew why. And, what you're alluding to, what Deb says here as well, I think it's because Barkley was a higher profile. You guys aren't wrong. Like, Barkley's a higher profile player, obviously. But my issue is that Nick Gates is a fan favorite and still is to this day, even though he hasn't played for us now for a couple of years. Barkley was also a fan favorite. So why do we get hurt? Like, why the emotionalness over Barkley going to the Eagles, but we don't give it to the fan favorite and Nick Gates? We went through a lot with Nick Gates, coming up from an undrafted free agent to becoming a starter, to having that horrible leg injury, which is like goes right up there with Joe Theismann, it comes back in. It's one of the better stories of the 22 season at that point there. Obviously, there's a few better, like us actually winning for once. But, it was a good story for him coming back to there at that point. And we wanted him back the next season. We gave him an offer. Instead, he goes to the Commanders. Now he goes to the Eagles. And yet I haven't heard one person give this guy an ounce of hate. And again, I don't think you should. But if we're not going to hate on him for going to the Eagles after just leaving us for the Commanders, then we shouldn't be hating on Barkley. It's fair as fair. Either it's wrong to be a Giant and go to divisional rival like this, or it is perfectly fine. It's a business decision, which is the correct answer in the end, guys. By the way, you want to
100% is, but once again, just to piggyback on why it's to be devil's advocate once again, to see the other side of it. It's like, all right, Commanders have been garbage they've been recycled garbage, but they've been garbage for the better sum of over a decade. The Eagles were relevant last year, past couple years, and they're our division rivals, and we gave up our best chess piece to one of the better teams in the NFC. Compared to giving up,
we didn't give them up, though. Let's be honest. Neither one of them wanted to reunite.
That's a wrong phrasing, but I'm saying we have Barkley.
Let's be honest. We didn't want Barkley. Barkley didn't want us. The fans.
We already talked about that. I'm just saying, like, it's a high caliber player to the high caliber team in our division, a lower caliber player to a lower caliber team. And just the NFC in general.
So you're suggesting
the Eagles are a higher. So like there's a higher stake of emotion because it's a higher rivalry, if you will, because it's one. I mean, it's an NFC East, but it's also like the Eagles are quote unquote playoff team material. They're also quote unquote, possibly NFC, maybe NFC championship material. I'm not gonna say Super Bowl material, but
They lose anyway.
I'm gonna put on quotes anyway. Quote unquote.
But so what you're suggesting, if I'm hearing you correctly, is you think that if the Eagles were not as good a team as people expect them to be, that this wouldn't be as big a deal, Barkley.
Possibly, yeah. If he went to the Commanders,
change about Gates? Gates still went there too now.
Well, he did now, but he went to the Commanders first.
I'm just saying, like, the situation doesn't change. You have an ex-Giant who's beloved by the fans going to the Eagles, and yet they have that same scenario twice now. One gets crapped on for it. One gets nothing.
That's because it's a Commander becoming an Eagle.
But there was no crap when he went to the Commanders last year.
Because the Commanders were crap last year.
I just think this is a double standard. I got to point
it is. It is a double standard, but I'm telling you, if Barkley went to the Commanders, he wouldn't get as roughed up about the whole situation. But I totally agree. Listen, this is a business decision of both these
fine gentlemen.
Yeah, these fine gentlemen made a fine choice in their career and their life choices. And they deserve to make whatever they want to make or play who they want to play with. Like, I'm not one to talk. I jumped ship from, one career to another and possibly a competitor.
Yeah, and Deb also says, I think fans would have been just as upset if Barkley to the Commanders. I agree with her. I think this is a Barkley thing. I think fans got so invested in Barkley as the face of this franchise that it hurts to see him go somewhere else. And like I said, I wish fans would say that. Like, it upsets me to see him play for somebody else instead of saying, how dare he go to the highest bidder in the Eagles. Like, relay what it actually is you're feeling, guys. If you feel betrayed, just say, I feel betrayed. But then own up to the fact that you feel betrayed specifically because it's Barkley and you held him to a higher standard. Because that's what this is really all about in the end. Because you clearly don't care if it's Nick Gates doing it.
There's a lot of feelings come out here.
There is. Like, we need a therapy session for like.
I wasn't ready for this. I'm going to call my therapist.
You got a Dr. Phil moment here.
Yeah.
So.
Catch me outside. How about that?
Let's talk about a Giant that we're not as upset to lose. That's kind of a mean way of saying it, I know. But that's Aaron Robinson, A-Rob, who is officially gone from the New York Giants here. After years of us forgetting he was still on the roster, he's officially gone for good. So you guys, you don't have to exert that mental energy to remember that he's still somehow a Giant. He's officially gone. Former third-round pick back in 2021. Been absolutely plagued by injuries his entire professional career now. Played in just 11 games for the Giants, guys. So he basically played 2/3 of a season.
Pretty much.
And he's been on the roster now for 3 years. That's not good. That means you haven't played very much at all. Like, that's bad. Oh my gosh. It's like 1/3 of the games you could have played in, you played. Like not even a quarter of them.
Not even.
A quarter? Is that what we're down to? What's the percentage here at that point? That's bad.
11 games out of what?
Like, you figure 34 plus what? 44, 51, 11 out of 51. So 22%, 21%.
Yeah, just bad.
That's bad. That's really bad, guys. And it's crazy is he's got talent. Like we're not hating on the talent he had pre-injury. Let's be very clear on that. Like, I still don't think it was a bad draft pick because you can't tell these things unless there was a medical red flag we're unaware of at that point. Then we can chastise Gettleman and the Giants for taking him all day long back then. They were going to hand him point blank the starting job his sophomore year there back in 2022. And remember, we were, especially me, bashing him left and right that preseason. That was our very first episodes of the Goofball Show there. And he was just horrendous in preseason. Came out of the preseason, looked better there just as the season started, and then got promptly hurt after a couple of games and was never seen from again.
I was about to say, that was the last time you saw this guy.
That's the last time you've seen him, and that's the last time you probably will see him, at least as a New York Giant. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets healthy, if somebody takes a shot on him, but I got to think, because the Giants had him under a rookie contract still. This was year 4, obviously, that rookie deal, so he was not a very expensive guy to have around, that if the Giants thought he was still worth holding on to, they would have. And that's not a good sign when you get let go during a rookie deal. That's really not. So this also signifies now that Azeez Ojulari is officially the last of the 2021 draft class left. So, yeah, talk about a year wasted, guys. That's bad. Like, that's really, really bad. So you're talking Kadarius Toney traded away. Aaron Robinson now cut. Ellerson Smith, I barely ever saw him. He got cut. Gary Brightwell cut this past offseason. Rodarius Williams cut. Quincy Roche actually, they listed him on here, but he was a waiver claim. So I may have gone. Anyway, he's gone either way. Yeah, I mean, that's horrendous, guys. Absolutely horrendous. 2021, definitely a draft class to forget.
Oh, yeah.
So, speaking of draft mistakes, we also have to talk about the fact that, again, we have Greg Roten now added to our offensive line, which seems to signify the fact that Jermaine Eluemunor is not moving anytime soon from his right tackle spot. So the question is now, is time officially running out for Evan Neal, the burger flipper extraordinaire? And, you know, there's a lot of people I'm seeing even talk about, is he going to even be on the roster this year? Let me be the very first person to assure you guys this. This is simple mathematics. His cap hit this year is $6.7 million. His cap hit next year is $7.8 million. It's a fully guaranteed contract. You save not a single penny by cutting him. Why would you?
100%.
Like, what would be the benefit of cutting a guy who just 2 years ago you thought was worth a top 7 pick? And then, like, you just are going to let him go for nothing and pay him all the money anyway? Like, could you imagine a scenario? And this is going to sound really doom and gloom, but I'm going for it. Can you imagine a scenario where we cut Malik Neighbors in 2 years?
No. Like,
that's what people are suggesting if they say that. You're talking a 6th pick, a 7th pick. There's not that much difference, guys. It's the difference of 1. The math is not
what is
there.
The loneliest number
that there'll ever be.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's anybody who's thinking that we're getting rid of him, move past that. We're not. The only way we'd get rid of him is if he agreed to some kind of crazy restructure. We can just buy him out and get rid of him. But why would he do that?
He's guaranteed money.
He's got $14 million in change coming back to him. He's never going to make that in the rest of his life, potentially. I would never.
No. If you told me, hey, you're probably going to ride the bench and you're going to make $14 million.
Done.
Okay.
And you know what I would do in the meantime? Is I would try to improve myself as best I can and hope to get another shot at the starting lineup again, whether it be through injury or whatever the case may be. Now, does Evan Neal have that maturity? I don't know.
Probably no, but like as I was saying, like, it's a win-win for both both parties in this aspect. Like, all right, he doesn't start this year. He doesn't start the year off, but you improve yourself that much where you could have a starting job again, and then maybe another team looks at you and you can make more millions of dollars.
Yeah,
or X amount somewhere else and continue that gravy train.
Honestly, the best bet I think for Evan Neal, and I've said it before on the show, and I stand by what I said. I think he has issues handling New York. I really do. And there, again, that's something you either can or you can't do. So I think the best bet for Evan Neal really is him to sit down this year, basically a red shirt this year, get fully healthy. Next year, ride the bench, hope somebody gets injured at some point so he gets to prove that he's gotten better and he's improved, and then just get the hell out of Dodge. and try to parlay that into some kind of offer to play for the team next year. Because he's just he does, like I said, the way he went back at the fans. We joke around about the burger thing quite often in the show whenever we talk about him. But the way he went after fans tells me it bothered him. We're getting more emotional now. We're going Dr. Phil style again. But that tells me like that bothered him. That got to him. The fact that he's getting all this hate from Giants fans. You can't let fans get to you like that. You can't have fans kill your confidence. He needs a change of scenery. I'm not even sure he's done yet in this league. I really don't think that. I think he can still develop potentially if he gets healthy and gets an actual offensive line coach. Because I mean, we got one now, but keep in mind he hasn't had one his whole career basically with the Giants.
Pretty much, yeah.
So wouldn't shock me at all if he makes it somewhere else. I don't think he's cut out for New York.
No, he would be a guy that would probably make it in Green Bay.
Yes, if he can make it there, he can make it nowhere else probably. But he just, like I said, I think that it's just the mental makeup. I don't think he has, and it's not a knock. It's just me trying to like look at it as with an analyst mind and say, I don't think he has the mental fortitude to survive in New York sports. I just don't. And there's plenty of people that haven't.
And once again, it's not a knock on his character because like
no,
I
think he's got mature.
Let's be honest.
I don't think he's a bad person.
Yeah, and let's be honest. Like there's mature people that can't handle the New York market. Like
you want New York, you can't handle the New York.
Oh, you can't handle.
But yeah, that's where he's at. It's where he's at, guys. So, I think you'll still see Evan Neal on this roster for 2 years. He may pop in as a starter, like you said, in case of injury. But I think his guaranteed starting job that we've been complaining about in this show now for the last 2 years, because unlike anybody being guaranteed a spot, you earn it. But those days are over. I think. I really do. I think those days are over, and we may never see Evan Neal on the field again if all goes right. And you got to hope everything goes right because a lot's going wrong.
Touche.
All right. Let's get into speaking of things going wrong here. We got an injury to talk about. Now, again, we always tell you guys this stuff here. Don't freak out. This is a very, very small injury. This is nothing to freak out about. But we're always going to give you the news at that point. So the news is that Brian Burns has an ankle injury. Now, it's nothing major. It's a mild injury again, but it's something to kind of keep an eye out at that point there. The quote they gave is nothing bad. And I love when people say, it's nothing bad. Well, obviously, it's bad enough to keep you out of practice. It's not nothing bad. It's not a major thing. I hate when people say it that way. But the Giants obviously are going to lighten his load. They're going to keep him healthy and try to keep his weight off it at the meantime to let him get fully ready to go. They're not going to trade picks for this guy, give him a massive contract, and then trot him out there to play when he's not fully healthy in meaningless time frames.
No.
Edge is one of those positions, and I don't mean to simplify it or belittle people that play the position, but it's a very simple position to put you in with no notice. Now, doesn't mean you get to play full-time 100% of the snaps with no notice. But you can put an edge rusher in a passing down and go, here you go, that's your quarterback, go get him. Now, if you want to talk about earlier snaps when you got to worry about, covering for the run, potentially, being in pass coverage, that's a different thing. But if you got a guy who's missed a lot of time and doesn't necessarily know where to get lined up and this kind of stuff yet, it's fine. Just go, here you go, pin your ears back, hit that guy.
Pretty much.
That's what we're paying him $30 million a year to do. Let's be very frank here. That's what we're paying this man to do. We're not paying him for his run-stopping ability. We're not paying him for his pass coverage ability, though he's not a slouch in either one of those two departments there. We're paying for him to smack the crap out of a quarterback. Literally, we want him to play the Cleveland Browns and exemplify the name that they have. We want their quarterback pooping his pants. So.
Or the Dookie Butters.
Exactly. So let the guy get healthy.
Yeah.
I just wanted to forward it that way. It's not freaking out because I just know the way the media works like that. I'm shocked there haven't been any crazy, like, will he be healthy week 1? Like, crazy stuff like that. No, he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. They're going to be overly cautious because of the fact that it's the training camp. It's not even the preseason. That's next week, so coming up soon. But
Yeah.
why would you risk getting a guy injured as you need? I guarantee if it was a regular season game coming up this weekend, he'd be playing. That's how light the injury is from everything I'm hearing. So,
yeah,
like I said, don't freak out. Let's see what happens here. All right. It's time to talk a little Hard Knocks. And again, guys, this is the last episode. This is them giving up all the juice they're going to give up now. And there's a very small moment at the very beginning of the show that I think was overlooked by a lot of people that I got to bring up. And we got to talk about Dable and ask, is he okay with DJ? Is this man okay with having Daniel Jones as his quarterback? Because I got to say, I was a little bit shocked by the reaction Dable gave when they're talking at the very beginning of the show. And they're like, oh, if we can't get a quarterback here, we'll just get a weapon. We'll ride with DJ. That man is a guy who puts his emotions on his sleeve. You see where he's at 24/7. You can see with this guy's excited. He can't help himself. It's like a kid Christmas morning when he likes a player. He cannot help himself. That was not the reaction he gave. It was absolutely not there. He seemed uneasy. And there was plenty of times later on, like you saw when we drafted Blake Neighbors and you saw him talking to him, how excited he was. Like, the man loves football. He loves football. But there's a difference in how he reacted when they're talking about Daniel Jones coming back. And I don't want to put words in the man's mouth. He has not said anything publicly. He has not, said anything behind closed doors that have been, released to the public that they weren't supposed to be. So I'm not trying to put it out there that he said it.
That's what Drew says.
His face was a little... I mean, am I wrong, Rob? Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, did he not look a little uneasy?
He did.
It was almost like when you go to the buffet and you see like the old crab legs still out.
Yeah. Can you refill these, please? These crab legs have been out here for 33 minutes.
Like, that's the look he gave. And I think stale crab legs is a very good analogy for Daniel Jones at times.
Especially these days.
Everybody's bashing him, so why not? What the hell? But like I said, it's just like that's where he's at. And again, I think Dable wants DJ to succeed and shine because he wants the Giants to succeed and shine. He's kind of the same boat we are. And I think that's where he just kind of thinks like, okay, well, this is the best option I guess I have. So we'll have to make it work. Yeah. That's like, what are you gonna do?
I mean, he knew for a fact he wasn't going to get a new shiny quarterback toy.
He was hoping. I think he was.
He was.
I mean, you saw how excited he was when he was talking to Drake May and talking to, Jaden Daniels.
But he also knew like that was out of the question.
We're going to get that in a little bit because that's a part of the equation here. We're going to talk about it in a minute here. But I just think that level of excitement was not there when he was talking about Daniel Jones.
No, it was not.
Wasn't. And he's the man who doesn't hide his emotions well. He'll admit that himself. Yeah. He's called himself a high when he was talking to Blake Neighbors in their interview.
Exactly. And there's a lot to be said to break it. To be broken down with that episode. Because you see the highs, but like he knows. Once again, I'm not trying to put. We're not trying to put words into his mouth, but like you see, like
we're reading body language. What we interpret
body language. There's certain players when he talks about them, like he's very excited to talk about. Like, knowing that, it's gonna be his third year with DJ. Kind of nobody saw.
Newman. He couldn't help but say something positive about Newman.
Yeah, he was stoked. Like you even saw, like when he got drafted. Newman, and he's like, this is the top of your receiver list.
Yeah. Well, Malik Neighbors that you're talking about.
Yeah, sorry.
I was saying Neighbors in the second round there, but I mean, but everybody like there was excitement, there was passion, and then I was like, we're gonna keep Daniel Jones, I guess. Okay. Like that's his reaction, basically.
What else is he supposed to do at the same time?
Like let's go. Have some pep, have some tone of voice that sounds happy of any kind of way, shape, or form. I mean, don't get me wrong. I, as a fan, And as a content creator, I'm perfectly fine with him not doing that because I'd rather have the honest answer, know what he thinks. But if I was DJ or somebody within the Giants organization, I'd like to think my coach has some
A little faith in me.
quarterback. Yeah. And there's definitely, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's probably a little bit. They did get the playoffs just 2 years ago with him. But there's probably not a lot, guys. There's probably not a lot. So, we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see, keep an eye on the sidelines during games and see what you see. I mean, he's already publicly yelled at Daniel Jones on the sidelines before during games. There's like I said, there's little signs you can see at that point. And the writing is starting to be on the wall for me that tells me that Dable is just kind of fed up. And he's probably the same as us, where he's going, DJ's not a bad guy. He's a great, guy, a hard worker, but he's just not the answer. As we have Sans Williams here, what's up, man? Says, I tell you what, sport DJ gonna be the downfall for the offense besides the O-line itself. DJ not game ready nor injury ready. And we'll get into that at one point because that'll be a conversation for another day we're gonna have. But yeah, people got to give this guy a little chance to get healthy before they make too much of a opinion on him on what he's going to be for the rest of the season there. And he also says, I'd rather start QB2 than to start DJ. Listen, Drew Lock couldn't even beat out Geno Smith, guys. I don't want anybody thinking Drew Lock is some savior. He's not. Deb says, I think Dable was excited about Jones at the end of 2022 season and playoff game versus Vikings. Then it went downhill. Yeah.
That wrong.
Like I said, he did not look at the same player last year. Now, again, you want to blame the line, you want to blame the offense, weapons, whatever you want to blame. He's got to take some of that. Some of that has to go in DJ. Some of it has to go because we saw him making mistakes, missing obvious pass rushers and stuff like that. So, and you can't blame Dable for not being excited about having to bring that back again. I mean, he went from Josh Allen to Daniel Jones. There's a big difference. There's a big difference, guys. So let's talk about the first round, though, because we got to talk about the fact that there were some trade offers here, guys. Before we even get into Neighbors, which, spoiler alert, we drafted Blake Neighbors, but before we haven't heard, let's talk about the next segment here. Let's talk about the first round trade down options here we had, because there definitely were a few options. So, first up, you got Joe Shane on the phone with the Colts. The Colts offered him 15, 46, and next year's second round pick. And he was pretty much had no interest in that whatsoever, said it was too far. Now, by all accounts, everything you heard earlier, the backup plan, if you couldn't get Neighbors, was a Dunze or Brock Bowers. He wasn't wrong in that case that both those guys would have been gone by 15, assuming everything else worked as it was in the draft, But I thought it'd be fun to look at what would have been if we had made that trade.
What could have happened?
Let's go back into the multiverse here and see what would have happened. If we have gotten number 15 here, you got some options, guys. The two options I looked at that I thought were the most obvious options were Quinion Mitchell, which is obviously I think we had him number 1 on our board as far as corners overall, if I remember correctly, or up. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I believe so.
You also had, if you wanted to stick a wide receiver, you had Blake Neighbors' teammate, Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU, available. So there were still options available that were really good players. I would have taken Mitchell in that scenario personally.
100%.
Which would have been crazy because you're just shoring up the defense and you're still ignoring the offense. I get it, but I think Quinion Mitchell is going to be a special talent, and I hate to say that because he's an Eagle. That's who got him, but he's gonna be a special talent in this league, I think. Now, at the second spot, okay, we would have had Tyler Nubin still at because we have 46 and 47 now in that scenario. We would have kept Tyler Nubin as 1. The other spot could have been Jonathan Brooks, the running back out of Texas. Could have been Trey Benson from Florida State. Could have been Adonai Mitchell of Texas, the wide receiver. Malachi Corley of Western Kentucky, Ben Sinnott of Kansas State. I mean, you definitely had your options, but the options definitely aren't Malik Neighbors.
Yeah,
and that's part
so,
of what
I mean,
they could have also taken a corner. Maybe they've taken Mike Sandstrel of Michigan or Ennis Rakestraw of Missouri. Either one of them, and not to be the negative guy, but either one of them are better than Drew Phillips, who we got later on the third. We wanted to get a corner in the second. We'll talk about that in a little bit here. So,
yeah, they also pretty much made it clear. It's like if they couldn't get a quarterback they wanted,
yep,
they're going to get the receiver they wanted.
Yeah, and I don't think they made the wrong move personally.
No,
I really,
unless one of these teams sold the farm.
Yeah,
that would have been different.
I think that for what they got offered, they're better off staying at 6.
I agree.
You got a potential generational talent in Malik Neighbors. That's how highly I think of him. Don't want to put words in your mouth, Rob, but that's how highly I think of him. Like, this got some real potential here.
Yeah, and we talked about personalities and if they can make it in New York, like, just look what Neighbors have done, what he has done, like, since he became a Giant. Like, he's made some jokes. Yes, he's made some mistakes of saying this before the draft, but like, he's been kind of like low key, like chill this whole time. But like,
make it rain.
Listen, if you're not in New York going to the Sapphire Club at 20 years old, then shame on you.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's got that chill. He's got that swagger.
Yeah, that joke around. We talked about it before. I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't.
But he's got that. I mean, we'll talk about him a little bit more. But like,
yeah,
he's got that personality that can make it.
Like,
yeah, he's not so much high strong. He's like, he kind of lets things float off him. So he's like, you get this guy that's a generation talent that could just take a lot of pressure.
So are we in agreement then that you wouldn't have made the trade? I wouldn't have made the trade. Joe Sheen made the right move.
100%.
Okay. Now, there was 2 other offers, I should say as well, for that same pick. So the Jets, they released during Hard Knocks, the Jets made an offer. They didn't let us know what the Jets' offers were at that point. Now, the Jets were the interesting one because they had 2 number 1 draft picks here. So, 2 first-round draft picks there. I thought they did, didn't they? No, they didn't. I'm looking it up now to look up the draft picks, who they were. No, so they had number 11 was their first one. So we still would have lost out. We got Brock Bowers, maybe.
Correct.
I wouldn't have been happy with that.
No.
Yeah. Like I said, we made the right move, guys.
100%.
We made the right move.
Grant, like, we thought Penix Jr. may have been at the 11th spot. And if that's the case, we got him, then we probably felt like we made the right move. But, like, no one saw Atlanta doing what they did. So, 100%.
Crazy? They didn't They don't have a second-round pick, even the Jets. What would we have gotten? For some reason, I was thinking they had 2 first-round picks. They had pick 11. Then they got pick 65, 134. Like, what were the Giants going to get in that trade? Like, they would have had to give up, like, a first-rounder next year for us to even consider that.
I mean, it's the Jets. They could have.
Who knows?
I mean, that's going to see if they made what kind of moves they made.
Yeah. Moves like
this
Jack.
draft.
Because their quarterback is the same age as Mick Jagger. But there was a third team as well, guys. I do not know who the third team was. I've heard from multiple media members that they've said the same thing, that there is a third team out there that made an offer. We don't know what. So hard to judge on that one there. So by all accounts, what we know, the 2 of the 3 teams that made an offer in for pick number 6, Shane made the right call. Get the potentially generational talent. Hope you make a hit. And you have a really good player on a cheap deal for the next 5 years. So let's talk about that player. Because we got to go over the Malik Neighbors talk here. Because again, this is a potential big star, not just for the Giants, but for the New York sports area as a whole, at least for the next few years. And there's a big questions you got to ask in this whole thing. So we already know the Giants picked him. No spoiler. There's definitely no spoiler there months ago. But there was two things I was looking at in this game. This part of the program, I should say. And was Malik Neighbors happy to be drafted by us? And was Malik Neighbors the first choice of the Giants? So, first off, as far as Malik Neighbors, I'm hearing a lot of people talk trash about the way he reacted because he didn't make eye contact, didn't sound overly excited, blah, blah, blah. People just microanalyzing these things all incorrectly, mind you. And they were basically trying to lay blame on Daniel Jones and the quarterback situation as to him not being excited to be there. And I think what they're doing is they're going back to his comments he made earlier, and they're throwing that into it, basically. They're trying to use things that aren't in the same time frame as the reason why. But we use basic body language reading, psychology, understanding of people's psyche at that point. People that have dealt with the public on a regular basis that have been trained to do this kind of stuff, you kind of learn some of this stuff here, whether you have a degree or not. But here's what you got to look at. Neighbors hit his face during the phone call with Shane. He also wore glasses. He hit his face initially for the initial reaction. The glasses were on the entire time. Now, you can tell by the tone he was excited. You can clearly see by the moves I talked about there a moment ago, he doesn't necessarily like to show publicly his emotions. You could enjoy getting attention as a star receiver in this league, as a star football player, and be a showboat kind of guy at that point, which he has a little bit of showboat in it, which is fine. Yet, you could also not want people to see your raw emotions. There's two different levels of security in that regard. And I don't know if, he was maybe very highly emotional, just didn't want people seeing that. Keep in mind that when you're in that kind of situation, you just never know how you're going to react. Maybe he was concerned he was going to tear up. You've seen plenty of people tear up when they get drafted. And I just don't think he wanted that out there. I think 100% that's what it was. I don't think he wanted his raw emotions out there publicly for everyone to see. He's okay with sharing his highlights. He's okay with sharing, his football skill to the public. But that doesn't mean he wants you guys seeing him at his most emotional. That's a huge trust thing for a lot of people. And I just think that's what it was. I think he was very emotional at the time. I think he was trying to hide his emotions from the public. And I think that's all it was. That's perfectly fine to do that. You do whatever you feel like with your own emotions. We're going a lot of Dr. Phil kind of stuff here today, but it's like you do whatever you feel comfortable doing. And if he doesn't feel comfortable showing us all his full array of emotions he was feeling at that exact moment, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. We didn't earn that right. That's his business. It's not ours. So, I said, I think he was excited. And it's pretty obvious that Shane and Dable were excited as well. And that whole Giants, team as a whole. We know that that Grow, the wide receivers coach, had him ranked as his top wide receiver. I already mentioned that in a prior episode. Shane had dropped that Dable had him ranked number one as in their wide receiver group as well. So you have people very high up, suggesting he's better than Marvin Harrison Jr. even, who was taken earlier in that draft. So this is a guy that was a good get for us. But was he our number one pick? I don't think he was. And I don't mean that they're not happy again to get him. I don't think they were not excited to have him. But I think Jaden Daniels was the guy. I really do. Just the way they were talking about him. It's like even the trade talks with the Patriots never went through fully into fruition at that point. He kind of gave up pretty early. I think, and again, we're just guessing here, just using off body language and what I think is going on based on what I saw. I think personally that if the Giants were watching the draft and all of a sudden saw Drake May go number 2 to the Commanders, they would have given up heaven and earth to trade with the Patriots to get Jaden Daniels. They knew they had not a shot to get the Bears pick. They were taking Caleb Williams no matter what. They knew the Commanders were not going to trade within the division. The Patriots was their one chance. And if the Patriots had gone a different route, and if the Patriots had gone with Drake May, I really think that the Giants would have moved heaven and earth to have Jaden Daniels be a New York Giant. And I think that's the guy that I really want in this draft. And I'm not just saying that because that's who me and Rob Sitters are our second best quarterback there in the draft at that point. Actually, we came with the best. Actually, remember, I think we had
him the best.
Yeah, so like, I think some of the talk about Drake May that was overblown, because if the Giants really wanted Drake May, he'd be a Giant right now. I'm telling you guys that right now.
They would have sold the farm to get number 3.
Elliot Wolf was talking. He didn't say, no, we're not going to give up. I think we're comfortable where we're at. But if you gave us this, and it's like he threw out a situation where the Patriots would have talked about it. That tells you the Patriots weren't also sold on Drake May, by the way.
Correct.
And I actually heard a report today, and I apologize to you guys that I usually try to write stuff down who was giving a report there, but it was an insider that was at the Patriots camp right now, said that Drake May is giving them shadows of Mac Jones. So I don't think that the Giants were nearly as high as Drake May as people thought they were. And I think they had that discussion because if Jaden Daniels had dropped down, they would have gladly picked up those pieces in a heartbeat. Said, here you go. What do you want? 3 first-round picks? I don't care. Take them. Here you go. We're getting Jaden Daniels. I really think that's what they thought about him. They would have done whatever they had to do to get Jaden Daniels if they had a chance to do it. So
yeah,
I think in the end, if they could have gotten Drake May at a lower cost than what Elliot Wolf was talking about, they would have taken the deal. But I don't think that Jaden Daniels would have slipped by if they had the chance to get him with a trade. So I think Jaden Daniels was number 1. Drake May is a very distant number 2. But I do think Malik Neighbors was their highest non-quarterback on their board.
Oh, without a doubt, yes.
Any way, shape, or form. I just think that people are making it seem like this was their top choice in their board, and there's not. This is the top non-quarterback choice they had on their board.
Top choice for their position.
Yes. And
that's something to be said.
Listen, if you got their third best quarterback on your board and you get him at pick 6, you should be, third best player, I should say, on your board, and you get him at pick 6, you should be happy.
You're right, but 3 quarterbacks, 3 picks.
I don't think they like Caleb Williams, honestly. The only mention they had of Caleb Williams, besides having him in briefly for the talk of the combine, was talking about how soft he was basically, and he fell apart at the end of the year, and he didn't know if he can handle the big
I don't think they hammered it home.
No, they didn't hammer it, but that's the only mention they had of him. If they
saying they knew pretty much from the get-go. They alluded to, like,
but then why waste
this
your time
episode?
talking to the kid?
Because why are you going to talk about the guy that you think that you pretty much have a lot of confidence that is going to the number 1 overall pick, and the Bears are not giving that pick up for hell or high water?
So why talk to him if you weren't interested?
I think it was kind of formality.
I don't think they liked him either. I really don't. That's just the vibe I got. Yeah. And they didn't talk about him much, but the little bit they talked about him, that's the vibe I got.
I just think it was a formality thing. I think it was something like, yeah, we talked to him.
Yeah.
And that's it. We talked to him. Because, like, you pay that respect, I guess, to that who you think is going to be the overall number 1 draft pick, just in case he drops.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Probably more will come out over the next couple of years with this whole thing. Maybe. It always does come out eventually, Let's talk about the second round selection we made and the fact that we talked about trading up. We talked about trading down in the first round. There was talks about potentially trading up. Now, Shane talked about it didn't make the calls. Let me be very clear on that. They decided to stay put. But we found out from this that the Giants really wanted Kool-Aid McKinstry of Alabama, who went wrong button there. Who went number 41 to the Saints, or Kamari Lassiter of Georgia, who went number 42nd to the Texans there. That would have been their ideal choice to get at 47 as one of those two. So we were close. Now, Shane said it would have taken a 4th rounder to move up. In this scenario, we're gonna play devil's advocate and do a little what's if with the multiverse again here. But in this,
what
if they had done this,
don't sue us, Disney.
Don't say what if. You're gonna get sued by Disney. The multiverse, they can't. They all call it the multiverse. But what if it's the name of a show? But in this scenario, we don't get Tyler Nubin. Keep that in mind, because we're now getting a corner. So you're giving up the 4th round pick to get him. You go ahead and get Kool-Aid or Kamari. I'd pick Kool-Aid of those two.
Yeah.
So we do have safety options in the 3rd round. So keep in mind, now we have the corner. We don't have to go get Drew Phillips in the 3rd round. So safety options we had that are picked after we picked Drew Phillips there. Calvin Bullock of USC. Tyke Smith of Georgia. Cameron Kitchens of Miami. They were all taken later on in the 3rd round. And in the 4th round, a guy that we were very high on, and we're starting to hear some people singing his praises already in the 49ers camp. Malik Mustafa of Wake Forest was still around as well. Mustafa. So, yeah, you got some options there at safety. The big issue, though, is none of them have the potential that Tyler Nubin has. Tyler Nubin is the one guy you could sit there and say has the potential to be a Pro Bowl caliber safety in this draft. Potential. I'm not saying he is.
Yeah.
He's a ball hawk. He's a heavy hitter in the run game. He does everything you could possibly want to do from that. And that's hard to come by. But you also look at the fact that, again, Kool-Aid and Lassiter are both better prospects at corner than Drew Phillips is. Drew Phillips is a bit of a project. You know, Rob and I we want to be uber negative. We weren't too big of fans of the pick necessarily when it happened. Kool-Aid or Lassiter, I would have been happy. Either one of those two would have been very happy. So it becomes a positional value then. Obviously, safety is a more important. I said corner is a more important position than safety is. Let's be honest. So is it worth the 4th round pick to get the better corner and to have the weaker safety when corner is a better position? I think in a normal circumstance it is. But here's the problem with that. If you do that, you don't get Theo Johnson now in the 4th round. So the question does not become, would you rather get Kool-Aid or Lassiter and a weaker safety? It becomes, would you rather get Kool-Aid or Lassiter and a weaker safety and no Theo Johnson? That's where the conversation got, and that's what made Joe Shane not want to make the move. Now, the best available tight end, I did for shits and giggles, look it up, that would have been available when we picked in the 6th round, would have been Jaheim Bell of Florida State, who's mostly a blocker. He went in the early parts of the 7th round. And that's a huge drop-off, guys. So, yeah, we made the right move, I think, in this. Again, not to move, to stay where we're at. But, guys, if Kool-Aid or Lassiter look good, we could easily be biting ourselves, kicking ourselves in the butt there for not taking one of those two guys and not making the trade to get them.
Yeah, but that's also... Yeah.
No, but I'm saying it's the right move, but it's a risky move.
I think it was the right move.
It all depends on.
But I don't think it was as risky.
And it also depends on Theo Johnson. If Theo Johnson turns out to be nothing player, then you're like, God damn, we could have had Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or if Theo just turns out to be a stud.
Yeah, then you're gonna be very glad you didn't make the trade. That's the
Correct.
fun of this scenario here. So, trying to guess this kind of stuff. And like I said, I'm going to go with the guess that it's the right move. Because we have too many holes to fill. We needed the players. He's not wrong. We need the draft picks. We need the picks.
We
But
know all the picks.
this is going to be something to be interesting to revisit in a year or two and see how it pans out. So stay tuned to that episode of Two Giant Goofballs coming in 2026. Let's get into the guy we did take. And that's Mr. Tyler Nubin here. So once those top corners were taken, in their eyes, past those two was a decent drop-off. And they went right for Tyler Nubin. He was their top safety on the board. He was a top safety on the board for pretty much 90% of the NFL, I feel like. Shane Bowen was a big fan of his. And like I said, number one player on your board, position of need, you're going for it. So, wasn't too much of a question mark of what they were doing. They were kind of sitting the last couple of picks and hoping no one took them. I got to wonder if they were sweating a little bit when the Panthers moved up just ahead of them with the aforementioned Colts, because they traded up to take the pick that we would have gotten. Now we made the Colts trade earlier on for that first round pick. Been a little irony if that had happened in a bad way for us. And the rumor was, they talked about it, where the Panthers moved up because they thought the Giants were to take Jonathan Brooks at Texas. That was the discussion. Like, they publicly came out and said, we did this move to block the Giants from taking Jonathan Brooks. And by all the video you saw in this episode, they didn't want Jonathan Brooks. They were going right for Tyler Nubin. So this is the second time the Hard Knocks has made Dan Morgan, the Panthers GM, not look the brightest bulb in the second. And the scary thing is, him and Shane are good friend. You would think Shane would try to stop that. Like, don't make Dan look,
especially because how ironic that the owner of the Panthers is.
Oh, he's insane, absolutely insane. So I'm sure that we're going to get fired off this probably.
Hey, you made it to game 4. Why is that? Oh, you drew on the Giants Hard Knocks. Stop.
Yeah.
Let's throw some lemonade at you as well.
Be nice to have a couple extra picks, like if you got a few more for Brian Burns or something, because the Giants seem to be willing to give them up. Like, that's the kind of discussions they'll have. Trust me, all year long if this stuff does not pan out for him. So let's get into our third round pick. We talked about him briefly, and that's Andrew Phillips, also called just Drew Phillips. There, they started off with Shane Bowen and Jerome Henderson both signing off on the pick. Shane says Phillips is a 3-down nickel for you guys. And he says that is questioned to both Bowen and to Henderson. And Henderson says yes pretty quickly. I thought it was interesting that they called him a nickel corner on the show. Nickel corner, meaning that they think he's the guy you bring in passing downs for slot position, extra corner, that kind of thing. They don't think he's a everyday starting outside corner. That I thought was pretty interesting because when he was drafted, I kept hearing about the versatility. He can play inside, he can play outside. That was one of the things they kept talking about, because Rob and I had to do some more homework on this kid, because we didn't even have him listed in our top 20 corners we did in this draft, I think. Like, we didn't have him listed.
Yeah. We
didn't think that highly of him. So again, not to be negative, it's just that's where we're at. We thought he was a project.
Let's hope we were wrong.
He was close. But we definitely gotta hope we're wrong now. Same as DJ. We may not agree with the pick, but we're gonna root for him because he's a Giant. But Shane, interesting enough, admitted about Phillips. He said Phillips would be the last cornerback we would end up getting fired up about. Not meaning like he's the last guy I get fired up about. No, like he's the last corner on their chart that they're like, any of these guys we get, we're happy to get them. So they went ahead and took him. After that, he added that they all, like, meaning the guys left, would be all developmental players. And they did go ahead and call him a starting corner. Now, obviously, a lot of times you start off with a nickelback, a slot corner kind of guy, and on your field at that point. So, again, we weren't a very big fan of this pick, but to me, honestly, watching this show, and I kind of thought they forced the pick, and they were kind of like, "We need a corner. Let's just get a corner." Watching this show, that has just been solidified in my mind now. To be very frank, and it reeks Eric Gray to me.
I won't go that far, but I know what you're saying.
No, but I'm saying it's like we saw corners going. We were down to the last corner that we were okay with getting at some point as a potential starter, and we just made the pick so we'd get one of those guys.
Yeah, but Eric Gray was a reach, and it was not for that position. It was more for safety. I hear what you're saying, but
I think Drew Phillips is a reach personally. I think he was a 4th round pick. I think he was early day 3 kind of pick. I don't think he was a 3rd round pick. You know, I'm kind of curious if we would have heard more about people what they thought of him that were in the NFL circles to see if they agree or not. But like I said, I watched that film and there's a lot of projects in there. There's a lot of stuff to fix.
I think you're right. Well,
talent there, yeah. Physical talent is there, but everything with just the form and it just isn't there. So, Jerome Henderson, again, we have a lot of respect for him. So I think if anybody could fix this kid, it's him. But there's going to be some work to get done there. There's definitely going to be some work to get done. So let's talk about another project. That's Theo Johnson. I know it's going to be bad. People are going to get on me for calling him a project right off the bat. But he is. We talked about it. We initially did our rankings on tight ends, and he was definitely there in the group. And we, got him right around where we thought he was worthy of being taken there. But this is a kid that you look at all the athletic abilities he has, and you're taking him for that potential. You're not taking him for what he did at Penn State. Let's be very clear on that. The Penn State numbers were not great. You're taking him for that potential. So he's a project.
Correct.
Joe Shane tells the show at some point, he says, there was a lot of conviction in the building from our scouting staff and our coaching staff that had spent time with the kid. My biggest takeaway there I thought was interesting. He said the word conviction. Remember what that means to the Giants. When John Mara was talking to assistant GM Brandon Brown about conviction. That was a very important word and a very important verbiage to him. You could tell that meant something. That word had a special meaning to him of like, this is the guy, I know this is the guy we're taking. I'm that confident. And that's the kind of verbiage that was used with Theo Johnson. I just thought, to me, they didn't talk much about Drew Phillips. They went on and on to me about Theo Johnson.
They did.
And I couldn't figure it out. Like, are you trying to convince me that he's good? Or are you trying to convince yourself that you made the right move? Like, you're validating your choice in some way, shape, or form, the way you're talking about this kid.
Yeah. Or are you doing that for the Mara family?
I'm curious. Like I said, I thought it was interesting because, like, as they went along, each round, they talked about the player list. Except when it came down to comparing those two, the 3rd round and 4th round. Neighbors got the most spotlight. Newman got a little less. Drew Phillips got talked about a little bit there, but they didn't go into huge detail. And then all of a sudden they go back and go in bigger detail into Theo Johnson, and then go back to later on not giving a lot of time to the rest of the guys. It felt a little weird to me. It felt like there was an agenda, like that was on purpose. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Who knows?
Could have been, or they were just excited to get this pick at that.
Listen, there was guys we talked about it. When we talked about him as a prospect, there are guys who loved him and guys who just had him off their board completely because they don't like drafting based on potential. We're kind of middle of the road people. We see potential, we go, okay, there's potential, but I'm not going to draft a guy high because of potential. I may draft him higher than what his stats show, but I'm starting to give him a crazy evaluation off potential.
Correct.
And he, like I said, to me, he went where he should have went. I thought 4th round was exactly where he should have gone. I can look it up to verify, but I'm pretty sure a 4th round grade is what we actually gave him. And at the time, a lot of people actually had him higher. Because if I remember correctly, when we did our draft guide for the tight ends, there was a lot of, talk about him because it was right at the pro day, if I'm right, and he blew it out of the water with the pro day at that point. So Theo Johnson, actually, I'm looking it up actually right now for us. We had him end of the third round. That's where we put him. We had him as the 6th best tight end on the board, and we had him in the third round. And all but one of the 5 we had ahead of him did go ahead of him. So we're pretty spot on, actually. I'll take it. I'll take the win. Take the win.
Score.
Let's talk about the next guy. Tyrone Tracy Jr. And this is, to me, a wild card pick we got here. And they kind of touched on that to a little degree there during the show. They didn't spend a lot of time talking about him, but what they did say is they said, and this is assistant GM Brandon Brown who said this, I should clarify. He said, perceived flaws were that Tyrone was an older prospect, not a lot of time in the running back room. We flipped it and looked at the positive. And we talked about that as well when we first drafted him. You got a guy who hasn't played running back very much, which means he hasn't hit his ceiling yet. He's a little bit older of a prospect than your typical guy you draft, but he also hasn't had as much tread taken off the tires because he hasn't played running back but for the last 2. He has fresh legs that are a little bit staler than the average leg. That's what they are. Yeah. Like, he's got fresh treads on him. It's almost like that car that goes to church and the grocery store on Sundays and that's it. And it's got like dry rotted tires on it. Like, I mean, that's
unfair, but I understand.
But I would say that's where he is, and I agree with the Giants. Like, you can't look at this guy as your typical running back coming out of college at the age he's at because he doesn't have the carries on him. He doesn't have the experience level that a lot of these guys have. So he's a wild card.
100%. It's where you draft this guy is exactly where it's a good spot to draft though, because like you're not expecting him to be the next Barkley. You're not expecting him to be the next stud, but you're expecting him to be better than what he could be, and that's not wrong. But you got him so late in the draft that he doesn't amount to like where you're thinking he could be. Like, it's not the worst case scenario. It's 5th round.
Who made the Blau Powell comparison? Was it you? Or was it somebody who got from X? You brought it up in one episode. I remember we were talking about him.
What was that? I'm sorry.
The Blau Powell from the Jets. We talked about him as a comparison. I remember you brought it up. I can't remember if you thought of that yourself or if you got that from somebody else.
I think I took it someone else.
But that to me is what you're hoping for this kid. A guy who can give the special teams, be a good pass catcher, come in as a backup running back when you need be. And if you get that out of this round, that's a good one there. And they talked about the advanced metrics on him, and the scouts really thought that he had some of the best explosiveness of any running back in this draft. Granted, it wasn't a great running back draft. Should throw that out there, but still, again, 3rd down back guy, former receiver. Like, there's a lot to like for where we got him. He's got potential. He's got some potential there. So let's see if that potential comes into fruition. So let's talk about our last pick here, which got the shortest bit of anybody basically on the history of Hard Knocks, except Mike Kafka. And that is Darius Muasau, who you don't even hear that much coming out of training camp out of him right now, to be honest with you guys. But again, he's a guy that you draft a linebacker late in the rounds at that point. He's a guy you're hoping to make catch on the special teams. If not, you pop him on the practice squad for a year and see what becomes of him. That's what you're looking at with this kind of guy. But they basically mentioned the pick, but totally skipped over the decision process. Like, we have no clue who else they were looking at with that pick. That's what I would have loved to see. Instead, they show Shane and Dable's wives watching a social media video of him.
At Tommy's.
At Tommy's Tavern. Yes, Tommy's Tavern.
I wonder which one that was.
What, Tommy's Tavern?
Yeah.
I can look it up real quick. I actually thought about doing that then, but I didn't.
It's funny because there's so many Tommy's Taverns out there now. Like, I was like, huh. Tell me they're in Staten Island. I'm like, yeah.
So, is that an actual chain? See, I live in New Jersey. I have no clue.
It is now. It was not when you left.
So I'll tell you this, just based on the locations I'm seeing on their website, Edgewater.
That makes sense.
Because otherwise
It's
Cherry Hill,
Edgewater
Staten
open?
Island, Newark, Delaware, Mount Laurel, Morris Plains, Princeton, Edison, Bridgewater, Clifton, Freehold, or Seabright. I mean, Clifton maybe, but I got to imagine it's Tommy's, tavern in Edgewater. I will look it up for you real quick to see if the pictures come out right. That's the beauty of stalking
Internet
nowadays.
Edgewater sounds about right. Definitely not Mount Laurel. Definitely not Cherry Hill.
Yeah, I'm based on the pictures I'm seeing. I'm pretty sure that's the one. It's the one in Edgewater, which would make sense. So next year, if you want to hang out with the Giants post draft, go to Tommy's.
I know where I'm going.
That'd be hilarious if like a bunch of Giants fans next year did that. But again,
next year would be Buffalo Wild Wings.
They go to the one in Clifton now instead. I just think, like I said, I think to me this was a huge missed opportunity. Like, you're not paid to be a lot of money to be a scout and a GM because of what you think of first round players. That's the easy one. That's the one you should get right. This is the picks that matter. This is the picks that separate the real, NFL guys and the people who just can make a splashy pick. I would have loved to see the thought process. And I get it, where I probably am in the minority. Some people are like, I don't care. It's a 6th round pick for a linebacker that may never see the NFL field. Who cares? I would have loved to see it. I thought it was a missed opportunity. I care a lot more to see that than I care about hearing about how good friends Shane and Dable's wives are. I'm sorry, I couldn't care less.
Did you know that their significant others are like each other's opposites?
Yes.
It really makes their dynamics work very well. And I learned that, which I gave absolutely 2 craps about before watching the episode. But I know that. Now I stuck in my mind. It's like when they're at work, they're banging each other.
Whoa.
Wait, what?
Let's not go there.
In the head about
our friends.
Plays.
Friends. Wow. That took a turn. Listen, Dable is Shane. Shane is Dable. Finkel is Einhorn. I don't know. It's like,
whoa. Now they're the same person.
I'm just saying, like, it's. I didn't care. I turned into Hard Knocks for football. I didn't. And listen, I get you're going to put filler in every show. I wasn't there to learn about who his kids thought you should draft in the first round. I wasn't there to hear about, the friendly dynamics between Shane and Dable's wives. Like, I could not care less, guys. I want to hear about football decisions. I want to hear about where you came up with this idea. I want to hear what your thought process is. I want to hear about things that happened after the draft. That's what I want to hear about.
Drew, you hear my thoughts about this all the time.
Your thoughts are too much. You go right into all kinds of cheating and all kinds of scandals here is what you went to with this topic. But yeah, like I said, missed opportunity, I thought there. So let's talk about the biggest gripe I had with the Giants here in this whole episode. And maybe it's just me. Let's find out. I won't speak for Rob. We'll see if Rob agrees. But were we drafting for needs? Is it just me, or like they put on the board, when Shane had that spot where, I don't know what you call that whiteboard where he had the doors to it you can open up that had little whiteboards on the other side of it too. They drafted the needs they had said in this draft they had. The old school Giant way was not to do that. The old school Giant way was, we're going to draft the BPA. We're going to draft the best player available on my board. And we're going to let the chips fall where they may. We didn't do that, guys.
You're not wrong, but also at the same time, if you keep doing that, you become the Las Vegas Raiders, and you keep on getting tight ends because that's what falls to you.
Listen, you got that option, go for it. Work for the Patriots.
It's not working for them right now.
Well, they lost him still. One of them committed suicide in jail, and one of them's retired now. It's been a few years. Like,
I was just going to picking the best player available, and it's Mac Jones, and now it's Drake May.
No, that was not. You're talking. You mentioned tight ends. You mentioned tight ends.
Well, I just said it because I said we could be like the Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
Who have gotten tight ends twice in the past year. Like, I hear what you're saying, but you're not wrong for making that statement, but at the same time, they went away from corner to go to safety. So like they looked at their positions of need and the area of need, and was that the catalyst of what they drafted or where they drafted? I'm not going to say yes, because they probably would have took a running back earlier on if that was the case.
Yeah. Would have made Mary happy.
100% would have. But
to me, if you reach too far, you fall over.
Correct.
And I'm concerned we might have done that. And you know the pick I'm already concerned with when I say that is Drew Phillips. You know that.
Yes.
Like, I don't hide. And again, I root for the kid. He's a Giant. I want nothing but the best. I want to be wrong. I want him to work out. I thought that pick was an absolute reach. And they reached because that was the position need they deemed they had to pick in the third round. That's what they did. They didn't say, we took this guy because this is the top guy on our board. They said, we took this guy because he's the last corner we were excited about.
Yes. You're not wrong for saying that. But what was there in the draft? Like, you could argue that here and there because you're in the third round.
But you don't reach. You don't reach. I mean, they took Malik Neighbors, and it seemed like legit he was their top non-quarterback on the board. I was perfectly fine with that. I'm not calling that a reach in any way, shape, or form because it's not. Anybody who said otherwise is ridiculous. I'm okay with Tyler Nubin because I feel like that was the best safety in the draft. But I do also question if he was their best player available. Or if they just said, we need a safety and they need a corner. Up here's the best safety in the draft still available.
I think that's all right. So
they seem, but I'm saying they definitely seemed in the second round to go pivot real quick from corner to safety.
They did, because they definitely want a corner. But you just gave up the fourth best safety in the league last year. You have the opportunity to draft the number one, even though they wanted a corner, and there was a little bit of a run in the corners. So they want safety who could do a lot of it, which could be the playmaker. And I bought into like how they said, like, it makes sense, that thought process.
And you know I like Nubin. I'm not knocking the Nubin pick in that regard.
Yeah, I'm not saying listen, you are, but like
the way it went, I'm just making sure other people know that. But I feel like the way it makes me question if he was their top player or just their top safety.
It's definitely their top safety.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was the top player the way they made it sound. Because if they really want their top position, they would have went corner at that position because they would have got away from Drew.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they didn't reach to take the corner instead of the safety. But I think they were dead set in taking secondary.
They were.
And that's an issue for me.
It's obvious because look at the third round.
Let the board come to you and take the best player available. Because I would have rather, let's say, Drew Phillips for a moment here. I would have rather you go and get a veteran for a year like a Fabian Moreau kind of guy and get him back in the fold than reach for a corner. I would have rather you go ahead and sign, what's his name that the Broncos let go? Justin Simmons, is that his name, right? With the, we talked about him on the show before. I would rather go get sign him for a year than go reach for Tyler Nubin. And that's only if they had somebody higher on their board, is what I'm saying. And again, we don't know that part of it. It just seems like they were hell bent on taking one. And then I said later on, they take a running back when running back was also on their board of things that they said they had to get. I just wonder if they were reaching, going, okay, well, here's the best player available at the 4 positions we're keying in on. You don't do it that way. You take the best player available. Within reason. If your best player is a kicker, you don't take him in the second round, obviously.
Yeah,
We're not the Raiders. We're not the Bucks. I'm just saying, like, that's I wonder that. And I haven't been a big fan of Joe Shane's prior drafts. I haven't been. I've been very clear on that. I don't think that our draft picks have panned out very well. I think our free agent moves have panned out very well. But I don't think our draft picks have actually panned out as good as some people may think. You got plenty of people out there like Josh Rizzuto, Marcus McKeithen from a couple of years ago, Darian Beavers, that so far haven't panned out, whether injuries, abilities, whatever the case may be. They just haven't. And I don't want to judge too quickly on these draft classes because it's only his third year. But from what I'm seeing, early results in the first 2 classes, I just question some of his drafting. I think it's fair to.
Yeah.
So, all right. Before we get to our we got one more segment to get to. We got a little sidetrack by everything, and I haven't been doing the videos. Let's get to the contest first.
Enter to win a Daniel Jones signed jersey. Simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@2giantgoofballs, and email a screenshot to 2giantgoofballs@mail.com to enter. Only one submission allowed per subscriber. Monthly subscribers at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs will get an additional 2 entries. Contest ends when the channel reaches 1,000 subscribers. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. This contest is not affiliated with the NFL, New York Giants, Daniel Jones, or any other person or company besides the 2 Giant Goofball podcast. Good luck to everyone.
All righty. Let's get into our last spot here, which is, to be frank, another wasted opportunity by the Hard Knocks show. And it's kind of was like a little filler segment they had to the end where they went into scout evaluations. And, they went into bringing each of them in the room individually with Shane and saying, it's important to tell them where they're at and where they can improve and what they've done and blah, 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 blah. An annual evaluation like we all get at our jobs at that point.
Yeah,
and
job review.
Yeah. I thought it was a little interesting to do it literally right after the draft when you're still busy at that point. Like, but I mean, that might be the downtime for the scouting department at that point. You've already you've done your draft now, you've done your free agency. There's not really that much to necessarily continue looking at there. So might make sense from that standpoint. But, I look at it and they go, brought them in a 1-by-1. You heard them say some very positive comments to some of them. I didn't hear any negative stuff, really. I would have loved to see how Joe Shane gives negative feedback to scouts.
Yeah, like, hey, listen, you told me this way last year, and what the hell were you thinking?
Yeah. I think because of the missteps this franchise has had in the last decade, I think Giant fans would have appreciated seeing a little accountability within the scouting department. And I'm not saying you publicly embarrass one and put him up there talking to Joe Shane, but you could have had the camera on just Joe Shane talking to him saying that and not mention who it is, not have their voice, their face, or anything like that in there. Like I said, I would never suggest to publicly embarrass somebody like that because it's still their job, it's still a person, and you're going to kill their confidence and they'll be known forever as the horrible scout from the Giants. Like that probably would kill their career. I'm not suggesting
100%.
that. But you could have had Joe Shane, like I said, at the table, talking to them, and you could have videotaped that part without showing who it was. And it would have been an interesting thing to see his reaction and to see what he thought about, honestly, what the scouting team is doing. Because if you think you watched that segment, you knew anything about what he thought, no, you know nothing. You're like Jon Snow.
The only thing, I hear what you're saying. The only thing I think of is you hear Joe Shane oh, you brought us X, Y, and Z player, and this is what they panned out. What were you thinking when you draft this person? You start hearing his comments of what he's saying. It gets personal. Then you could probably figure out who scouted what player.
I just
would have to be cut to a certain degree.
Yeah, you would have. Oh my God, the cutting room and editing team would have to cut and edit. It's amazing. Oh my gosh.
Do their jobs.
Crazy thought. Wow. Might have to spend an hour doing it, not even. We're done here. I cut and edit things too. It doesn't take me but a couple hours. I'm not getting paid by HBO to do it. Just do it. So I said I just thought it was a wasted thing. It would have been nice to see a legit how the conversation goes, how the thought process goes, to learn a little bit behind the scenes in that regard. I guess maybe next year. Whoever does it next year. Whoever does it. So, but there is talk that it'll never happen again, because if you notice that one section of the show, they had a board exposed that showed all the picks from the draft, and nobody blurted out because they thought that it was going to be, who cares? The picks were already in at that point. And it wasn't like their top board, but they did color code people, and people are now guessing what those color codes meant. So, potential for a little egg in the face there. So, all righty, guys. Let's pay the bills, then we're out of here.
Thanks for listening to Two Giant.
Wrong button.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
I just hit the wrong button to make sure you all are paying attention. How funny is that? Like, let's go pay the bills, and then we'll get out of here. Just leave anyway.
That's just like when I want to enter a conversation with someone that I'm in the middle of a heated conversation with, if you will. I'm going through a tunnel. Click.
I need a button for that. That's gonna be But yeah, guys, appreciate you guys being on again. Let us know in the comments what you guys thought about some of the crazy stuff we're saying here, because I admit some of what we're saying is a little out there. It's not exactly what you see on every single content creators pages, that's for sure. We are being live again for you guys tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll go ahead and give you guys updates of what's going on in training camp, any other Giants news going on at that point as well. And who knows? Maybe the Giants send somebody else. We have to go over them tomorrow. You never know. I didn't have on my bingo card of them signing a corner today. Things happen. So, as always, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, not yet Twitter/X. We're still debating that. We might make a decision on that pretty soon. And of course, Twitch. And I'm forgetting one. What am I forgetting here?
Oh, Drew's LinkedIn page.
Oh, yeah, my LinkedIn page. Rob's favorite, my LinkedIn page. And of course, as always, we're available the next day on all the audio podcast platforms. That's iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, all the big ones there. So if you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that share button. And if you hit that subscribe on YouTube specifically, which I think y'all should, make sure to sign up for the contest. If you haven't remembered or picked up on what it was yet, hit the rewind button a little bit and you'll find out a little more about it. So again, appreciate you guys for listening. We'll see you guys again tomorrow night. And as always, Giant fans,
go Giants!
Enjoying the show.
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.